I made the dumbest decision I could have ever thought of. I decided to switch to internal medicine. My kids would have went hungry that night if I could see in the future. Like, I'm not going to listen to somebody that has a background in business administration about medicine or how to treat a patient. It's easy to get ripped off when you're young and impressionable. I'm very relaxed. I'm a relaxed guy. I'm not going to lose my mind because, somebody's hemoglobin dropped down 0.000001.
Well, here it is. Theo Jones, the goat in the coat from Baltimore, Maryland. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, guys. I'm happy to be in the building tonight. Well, my building at the moment, but the virtual building of the InvestRN podcast.
We've got the whole country covered, sprinkled across the U.S. right now. I think for east to west, and then he's in the middle somewhere.
Oh, so, yeah, Wisconsin.
I like how you laugh when you say it. That makes me happy.
Let's get my man a brick of cheese.
I got plenty of that.
I love it.
So yeah, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into nursing and what it's looking like for you today.
Oh yeah. So quite ironically, before I even became a nurse, I used to work in psychology. So I was a therapist first, actually, believe it or not. I used to do like rehab therapy. And then my brother and I, we were kind of just talking about how some of the jobs that we were doing were just kind of dead into us. So we ended up doing was like going to a community college, just like a school fair. And together we was like, yeah, why don't we take these classes together? And by the time it came to take the classes, he kind of like chickened out on me. So I ended up still going to nursing school by myself. And I kind of worked my way through. I did like an exit option program for LPN. So I became an LPN in about 2011. And then about 3 years later, I finished my BSN. And I got my first job at the ICU, the Weinberg ICU with Johns Hopkins. Didn't like the ICU lifestyle. And I kind of just like swapped out of it. I ended up doing trauma surgery. So I did trauma surgery for about 5 years. I ended up working and doing my master's at the same time. I finished my master's program in 2018, which was a nurse practitioner kind of thing. I did a lot of my training in a family practice office / hospitalist. So the doctor I was working with, she was a hospitalist and a family practice doc. So I kind of got the best of both worlds on the skills. So I ended up doing a fellowship in acute pain management for post-surgical patients, which was very fun, believe it or not. I recommend fellowships for most NPs coming out of school. From there, I made the dumbest decision I could have ever thought of. I decided to switch to internal medicine, and I was a hospitalist. I did hospitalist medicine. I still do hospitalist medicine for this day. And the only reason I say it was the dumbest idea I ever had was because the minute I flipped from acute pain to internal medicine, the pandemic hit. And that was probably one of the most like exhausting portions of my career. And it really kind of burnt me out to an extent, which pushed me into my current business, Concierge Medicine. It opened up a pocket for me where I realized that a lot of people were still very much scared of a system, and they wanted to get into a system that would be a lot more comfortable for them, and it would keep them away from getting sick. And from there, my idea just kind of continued to develop until what I got now was Weekend White Coat Concierge.
Going back a little bit to your beginnings in the ICU, what was it about the ICU that you said you didn't like?
Man, they're too type A for me. I'm very relaxed. I'm a relaxed guy. I'm even as man. Like I'm not going to lose my mind because somebody's hemoglobin dropped down 0.000001. You know what I mean? So I'm not. It's just like they're ready to break your fingers if you don't say nothing to anybody. I'm just like, listen, y'all gonna give me an ulcer at this rate. I can't deal with it. So the lifestyle just wasn't for me, and they wanted me to rotate day and night, which also I wasn't with. That was awful. It was like 7A, 7P, and then 7P, 7A, but you do it like every other week or something like that. And I was like, nah, this ain't it.
I've seen those shifts, and I was always like, man, I think I'd rather, even as much as I don't like nights, I'd rather just do, if I'm going to do nights, like let me just do nights, because it's just switching back and forth every other week would be rough.
But dude, they threw me off, man. My circadian rhythms never came back. I still can't sleep. And to this day, I'm still like messed up.
How long did you do the ICU then? The like switching back and forth?
I did ICU at Hopkins. I finished the orientation was for 6 months, and then after that, I switched to OR, and trauma OR's orientation was another 6 months, and then I did another year of ICU at University of Maryland after all of that because I was like, oh, I don't want to lose my skills. The truth is you never really lose your skills. That's a false reality that we create, man. It's the worst idea that I ever had because I was doing trauma surgery and ICU at the same time. I was doing like 36 hours in trauma surgery, and then I was doing about 24 hours in ICU. It just exhausted the hell out of me. So I think overall I probably got about 2 years total out the deal. And then I just kind of was out of it. So
I'm kind of with you. Like everybody always says they're going to lose their skills. I've said that to myself also, but I think it's more just the confidence of the skills that you have. Cause it's like riding a bike. You don't really actually lose the skills, but the confidence is kind of
confidence,
important with a lot of the
confidence,
skills that we're doing at that point. The confidence is what is needed.
yeah. Well, I mean, what I found was like after like starting the concierge medicine practice is that it never goes away because I still very much use my skills. Like I'm still like throwing IVs in often, you know. I'm still interpreting labs and titrating things often, you know. Or even when I do like iron infusions in home with some of my patients, like I'm still doing the protocol, so it never really went away. It's just a different skill set of how I'm applying it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the confidence though, because I think like I took a 2 year, 2.5 year break, and like the first going back to ER, the first IV I started, I was like a little nervous going into it, and I got it no problem, but it was like, yeah, that confidence just wasn't there. Whereas like
One
now
for
it's like going back.
like
Go
to
ahead.
throw a little additional reference in there, you were an ER nurse for 10 years. So you were like
Yeah,
the
right.
IV guy.
Oh, dude, that was like a bike ride, man. Come
Yeah,
on.
but it is. It's kind of interesting. But when you were doing all those hours between ICU and OR, was there a particular reason you were working so much, or just because the opportunity to make the money was there?
Man, the opportunity to make the money was there, but also, I kind of just wanted to invest. It was so funny because a friend of mine that I met in the in the OR, I was saying ER, man, you got me thinking about the ER. A friend of mine that I met in the OR, my friend Tim, I remember just like working with him one night, and he just looked at me and he was like, "So how'd your 401k do this year?" And he was like, "I did 22%. How about you?" And I was like, "What? Percentage? What you talking about?" And I looked, and I think my 401k was in like one of those like shitty target date funds, and I had only did like 8%, and most of that was like eaten up by fees. So in like reality, I probably did about 4 or 5%, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And I fell down this rabbit hole of like financial independence, retire early, Reddits and blogs where you find Mr. Money Mustache and you see you read the books, Your Money or Your Life, or like Tony Robbins, Money Master the Game. Like you fall down this rabbit hole once you start to hear people talk about this. And what I ended up doing was working like a crazy person just to try to catch up on investing because at the time I was like 26. I didn't know anything about investing like for real. I mean, I invested a little bit in 2007 when the whole market crashed. I bought a whole bunch of like Southwest Airlines thinking I was doing something. I mean, I did well on that investment, but I could have bought Citi. You know what I mean? Citibank was like, pennies on a dollar, but I bought an airline instead. That goes to show how inexperienced I was. But in between that time, I didn't really think about investing. And I just started working. Once I saw the potential to make that money, I worked from sun up to sundown to like, all right, I got to catch up. I got to put this money in here because most of the time when you look at figures, they say people in this age range are supposed to have 100,000 invested, 150,000 invested, and 200,000 invested. And I remember looking around and thinking to myself, I don't have nowhere near that. What the hell was I doing? Where was I at when these grown up roles was being passed out? So I worked like that because I needed to catch up first and foremost. I mean, of course, you got student loans, you got family obligations, things of that nature. You want to buy a house, you want to. Everything seemed like it was coming at you fast at the time, and it's just like, all right, it's either I make money or I'm going to drown, and I chose not to drown in that situation.
Yeah, and I want to touch on something you said a couple minutes ago. So you made about 8% on that, but you didn't, like, nobody thinks about the fees. Like there's so many fees that are involved.
Dude, a target date fund is the worst thing you can invest in my opinion.
Which fund?
A target date fund.
Oh,
So
okay, yeah.
yeah, so if you're supposed to retire in like 2050, you'd be like in like a Hancock 2050 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a tricky thing. So like I wouldn't say we don't believe in the 401ks because obviously like it's a good tool, but just for what we're
Yeah.
doing,
For most
we
Americans, it's good.
yeah.
It's not great for anybody, but it's good.
Yeah.
That's personal opinion. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Well,
it's
and
better
it's
investment vehicles too. So
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, but I was gonna say it's like we took ours out to invest in real estate, and that was just like something we decided to do. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for everybody, but it's kind of like one of those things where it's like when the hospital's offering this match, it's kind of dumb not to take it to a certain extent. Like I think you should take at least the hospital match, but then it's like, yeah, how much of it is getting eaten up by fees and all that, and most people don't understand all that. I mean, I sure didn't when I started with it.
The hospital match is the only way you can get 100% return on your investment. So you can't get that anywhere. Well, I mean, I guess you can, but not without getting lucky.
you don't they don't teach you that in school. You know what I mean? Like I could see if they took us to the side. I was like, all right, nurses, here's a like a course that you could do that's telling you about investing and with the 401ks. Like when those people show up on orientation day and start talking about the 401k, they don't tell you that they're going to take 1 to 2% off their you're not going to take they're not going to tell you you're going to take a 1 to 2% haircut the minute you start investing. You know what I mean? And they also not going to tell you like, all right, market's going to downturn at some point. They're just like, oh yeah, put money in with us. It's a good plan. And come invest with us. We got the best funds. Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? So it's easy to get ripped off when you're young and impressionable.
Well, and I always say that I wish I had had a little more financial education in school, but that's like hindsight's 2020. When I was in the moment of in nursing school or in grad school, there's no way I would have studied any business or finance because I was too focused on passing boards and passing everything else that I had to do. So I mean, I always say that, but I don't take it with a grain of salt because in the moment, there's no way.
Well, dude, it's nothing like having somebody laugh at you because you only did 8%. That is like the most like that's the most like upper 1% I ever heard of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you did 8%. You know what I mean?
Hey, first world problems, America.
Well, even hear you talk about it, I mean, like that's kind of the whole reason we started this podcast because we went through the same thing, and it's like we didn't have this financial education. I mean, like both our parents were doing fine for themselves, but didn't really like set us up in any way.
Yeah.
And
Well,
maybe they did, and they might have tried, but it's like
it might have gone right over our heads. I'm sure.
yeah,
I mean, I do remember like my parents being like, "Oh, the whole Dave Ramsey debt, whatever, payoff stuff."
yeah,
But there was not a whole lot of outside of Dave Ramsey
right,
that we learned.
Right.
But
Man, I used to like Dave Ramsey and then I don't like Dave Ramsey. That guy hates everything. He's like the old man screaming at the cloud in my opinion some days. Like I still like look at clips of his like his podcast and his show. And when people are like listening off what they got going on, he's like, yeah, sell your car, sell your mother, sell your wife. They're all costing you money. And don't give her a credit card when you divorce. Like what the
yeah. Well, what does Kiyosaki says? Like, if you're an idiot, follow Dave Ramsey or
Oh
something.
yeah.
And I mean, I think they get along fine, but it's like, yeah,
I
no, but I
wouldn't.
mean,
Yeah.
it's I think like yeah, like getting to people like when they're actually like unfortunately maybe you actually have to like get into the nursing world, start making the money, start spending it, and then like have that realization because otherwise it might not sink in. But our hope with this whole thing is to kind of like be that gateway drug like you were talking about where it's like once you start diving into it, now you're looking at like Tony Robbins, Kiyosaki,
Oh, dude, it's
whatever
rabbit hole.
avenue.
It's like, you're going to tea with the Mad Hatter, you know what I mean? You walk up and you look in and you see, Bitcoin all-time highs and, VTI and you're like, what the hell is all this shit? And you just kind of fall through the hole and you're just like, oh my God, how did I end up here with all these investments in the business?
We do want to talk way more about your concierge medicine business, but before we get there, talk a little bit about your investment journey, like how you started educating yourself. What were the first few steps that you did, and then what is your investment strategy look like today?
So I just started reading books. I remember reading Rick Edelman. I remember reading Tony Robbins' Money Master the Game. I remember reading A Walk Down Wall Street. Um, I soaked up everything I could get my hands on. The first book that I read was like Think and Grow Rich, and I just remember thinking like this is like so boring, but but it made sense. It gave me the mindset. But I was looking for like practical advice, and then like every podcast, every blog that I could get on, like Go Curry Cracker, he has this great article about paying no more taxes for the rest of your life, and he talks about he talks about the raw strategy. Um, I really love that one. And I think that I just kind of started taking in everything that I can, and then at the bare bones of it all was invest in ETFs, namely broad market index funds, S&P 500, um, and you just dumping and dumping and dumping. You like once you get a solid base, then you can start to look at other avenues of investing. For me personally, what I like to do with my portfolio, I really love the all weather portfolio that Ray Dalio has, which is the gold, foreign market, VTI, and then like bonds. I'm really into that right now. I mean, but of course, you see how the market is doing. The market's all over the place, but it's enough to cover you. It's not as effective as it used to be, but I love that. I'm really into art investing. Uh, it's this platform, Masterworks, that I've been working with. So I've invested in like a Basquiat painting, a George Condo painting. I have like multiple art pieces around the house that I'm invested in. Of course, a lot of my net worth is like tucked into my business, and my real estate. I just got a home. Um, of course, the stock market, 401ks, SEP IRAs, personal accounts. Um, Geez, what else? Dude, I'm getting into watches. I'm looking at other avenues. One thing that I've really been like obsessed with, private equity, right? So it's this website slash app called Micro Ventures, and you can purchase early equity stakes in companies like Stripe while they're still private. You can purchase into like XAI. I think SpaceX was on there. I think I seen Calendly on there, the same scheduling that we use to get here. But they're like all late stage round funding before they go public. And I don't think people talk about this enough, but when you invest in private equity before it goes public, when it goes public, it goes crazy. Like most of those people, like think about everybody that was in like the PayPal mafia, right? One of the best stories I ever heard was the Roth IRA story with Peter Thiel. He put all of his shares from PayPal into a Roth IRA, and now he has a $3 billion plus Roth tax free, um, private equity. So all of his shares were like pennies on a dollar when he got them because he was there at the ground level of it, and that's where I want to be on this private equity side of things. Like I want to be the one invested in these business. Like all of them's not going to make it fine, right? But if you have a great product, like a Calendly or like a Stripe, everybody uses Stripe. Stripe processes billions of dollars for everybody. I even charge people on Stripe. So why wouldn't I want to put money into a product that I believe in? And if I can get into it before it goes public, imagine that. I buy a share for $1 a share, for example, and the dollar goes to $50 a share once it go public. Because products like that, people want to get in on the ground level of. People want to buy. So the difference between private equity to IPO day to what you get in a payout 6 months later once it goes live is drastically different. And you can go anywhere from 10 to 20x on your initial dollar investment. So deals like
Mhm.
that, I'm chasing now more than ever. So that's where I would want to
What
go.
what was that website that
Micro
you mentioned
ventures,
about this? Okay,
micro
because
ventures.
micro niches. Okay, that's super interesting. But for somebody who's like getting started in investing, because I know most of those situations that you just described require a high net worth already, or
Yes,
to be an accredited investor. Is there
yes.
anything that can kind of get you in on any of these deals before you hit that? Because it's not easy to become an accredited investor.
Yeah. Well, and
Um,
I was even gonna say like when you were 26 years old and you realized like, oh man, I got to catch up. like what was kind of your step by step? Like how long were you working those 5 days a week? How long were you saving that money and just dumping everything in? And what were the stocks or the whatever you were investing in at that point when you were very new?
Got you. When I first started out, dude, VTI, of course, that was like 60%. I would dump 60% in VTI. I would buy um JP Morgan. They have like an ultra short. They got like an ultra short ETF, and what that is, it's just like you get like dividends every week or so. So it's like an ultra short ETF. Schwab's High Dividend Fund, SCHD. I invested in that. I still invest in that to this day. I love it. I invest in Schwab's foreign market fund, which gives a pretty good dividend. For my real estate investment, um, I love O because it gives a 20 cent per share dividend every month. So it's 20 cent per share that you own. So every month you'll get like a dividend at the end of the month. So those were like the first like things that I started to look at. So what I did was like, what would be a layman's portfolio that would make it very easy for me to invest in. So as far as the work 401k was going, I took all of my money out of those target date funds and I switched it to I think at the time we had the Vanguard Admiral Shares Fund, which was a S&P 500. I took everything out of the target date fund and I put 70% inside of that Admiral Shares Fund, and then I put an additional 20% in a like a small cap. It was like I think it was Colonial Small Cap or something like that, and then I did 10% in foreign markets. And when 10 years ago, let's see, I was 26 at the time. I'm 35 now. So 9 years ago, the stock market was completely different. You know what I mean? We was nowhere near these all-time highs that we're at now. So investing 9 years ago in all of those things, and the S&P is hitting more and more highs every day. I'm looking back at my young self and thinking like, man, that was very smart because S&P 500 just continued to roar. Even in the pandemic when it downturned, I just kept putting money in the market. When everybody else is greedy, I'm fearful. When everybody else is fearful, I eat the best. Because why would I want to run the other way when I notice a sale? You buy the market. You don't sell when it's cheap. You buy when it's cheap. You know what I mean? So I
Right,
think I
Josh?
made I think I made most of my wealth,
Yeah, yeah.
when the market was cheap.
Who
You
who said
wow,
that recently? They said assets are the only thing that you're never gonna, or that people are too scared to buy when they're on sale.
for real. I mean, but also at the same time, like you never lose if you don't sell, right? Look at all the Bitcoin loyalists that are like watching it inch towards 100,000.
I had
So
one of my friends bought like two when they were at 45,000, and then right after that they dropped down to like 20 or 25, and he's like, just wait, and now they're at 100, right, 100,000 each.
yeah, dude, it was an anesthesia resident that had some Bitcoin when we were at Hopkins. Like I remember he quit the program. He was like, I got Bitcoin. I'm done with this shit. This was like when it was 60,000. So, who knows where that guy is at now? He's probably on a yacht somewhere, surrounded by, beautiful women and something that might not be intoxicating in a glass,
How many? How
enjoying his
many?
life.
So I guess the question is, how many Bitcoin does it take for you to feel so secure that you can just drop out of residency and be
That
like,
is a
I'm
good
good?
question because he would never disclose. It must have been enough. He said
Must have been a
something like,
lot.
he said somebody gave it to him on a computer. So I guess it was a pretty substantial amount. But also on the other end of that, you could be the guy who bought the pizza with Bitcoin. That guy
I
is
heard about
probably
that.
on a bridge right now waiting.
Yeah. They said that the pizza Bitcoin was worth like 900 million today, something like that.
Oh my god.
I know, I would be so upset.
Oh dude, freaking pizza, man. 2 pizzas. My kids would have went hungry that night if I could see in the future. Lord, you ain't
That
okay.
Oh my.
that's the whole problem though. It's like so much of investing is that, and it's just like, I mean, like I always talk about how I was thinking about buying Nvidia at $20 a share, like in 2016, and I didn't do it, and I kick myself over it now. But like, I don't know that I would have just held on to it. I might have
Yeah.
sold it because if
Yeah.
it goes up and then it goes down, and it goes up, and then I'm like, ah. Like, and maybe I would have educated myself more, and so I would have known to stay in or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just too, I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
if you know it, or if you can weather the storm, like you just hold on. And
Well, and we hear these stories and it sounds easy. Like, oh my goodness, I could have $900 million if I just bought Bitcoin. It sounds so easy, but like
yeah,
nothing is easy. Like, I don't
No,
know.
it's hard, man.
No.
I bought AMD at $10, right? This was like before that boom. I bought AMD at $10, and then it went to 30, and I was like, I'm up. And then like a few years later, that shit hit like 100 and something, and I was like, I'm an idiot. It's
because
not
you sold at
easy.
30.
No, AMD, man, the chip company.
But did you
Yeah.
sell at 30?
I sold at
You
30,
sold,
man.
oh, you sold
Yeah,
at 30.
yeah.
But you
So
tripled your
there,
money. That's not bad.
But 10x is better.
well, exactly. That's
That's
what
what
I'm saying. Like,
everybody. Yeah.
Then the bad part, I didn't need the money. I was just like, oh, let me sell while I'm up.
obviously, you've had this adventure through stock market and investing and all that kind of stuff. You said 2011 you were in the LPN
Yeah.
program, and then that took 2 years, and you got your RN. You started working as an RN. So how long was that period before you became an FNP?
So let's see. I started working as an RN in 2014. I got my FMP in 18. I started working in 2019. So probably about 4 to 5 years. So, and I still hung in the background a little bit while I was, credentialing and all that fun stuff. So it kind of overlaps, but I say it's about a 4 to 5 year still in the game difference from like RN to true like FMP status.
And then you rode out the pandemic in internal medicine.
Regret.
I took years off your life,
Well,
probably.
I know,
well, but
man.
had
But
you
I don't have any hair now.
had you stayed in the pain clinic, would you have had cases, or would you have been out of work because of the pandemic shutting it down?
I'd have still been in. I'd have still had work. We had an inpatient population, so I still had a decent amount of work. I mean, there's always drug addicts everywhere that need pain management. Because you know what the problem was with the program? Why I got really frustrated with it. They started to like make us take like chronic pain patients versus like post surgical patients. Because I guess surgery we weren't doing surgery like that during the pandemic. Like those elective needs and stuff like that, they weren't happening. So if it wasn't an emergency, then they was like, well, y'all making money for nothing. It's either y'all can go down to like middle of nowhere, Southern Maryland, and work the ICU, or you can see these junkies with the abscess in their arm that these hospitals keep calling us about. So
You got to go where the money is, I guess. But
I went where I felt like I could grow. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna go learn something else. And that
Yeah.
that role transition
And
was a bitch, man.
I think that's kind of an issue that all advanced practice nurses run into. Like administration, whenever something happens, they always want to move nurses backwards. They hardly ever want to move nurses forwards. That's something that as a CRNA that happens all the time. People are trying to make us do stuff that it's really not in our job description anymore. Like we're here for other reasons. And one of our other guests on here said the same thing. She's like, I'm not trying to move backward anymore. I only move forward.
Right. It's like, why would I move backwards? And also, that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I got exhausted of working for other people, and I was like, I need to go figure out how to work for myself because I don't want to listen to people that I feel like and I'm probably smarter than when it comes to certain planning and business and like leadership and implementation. It's like you're telling me what to do and it don't make sense. Or, they'll bring in people that are underqualified to lead you. Like I'm not going to listen to somebody that has a background in business administration about medicine or how to treat a patient. You know what I mean? You stick to your numbers and I'll stick to what I know. So I was like, nah, I can't do it. So that kind of segued me away from like a traditional working environment because it's got under my skin. And I started to feel like maybe I'm one of those people that are just unemployable to an extent because after a while, if you talk to me reckless, I'll be like, I don't need this.
I can relate 100%. That's me. Oh,
yeah.
so now you do concierge medicine. We can get into that a little bit. You started that from ground up, or did you know somebody that had already been working in it?
Day
What did
one,
that look like?
I started. So I ended up starting it. So I had this idea that I wanted to start a telemedicine clinic and I wanted to do like 100% telemedicine. And this is before like teledocs took off, before like Like all of these like big companies started going public. And I just remember thinking like, man, I want to be able to provide care for people at home so they don't have to come into the hospital for reasons that don't matter. Like you shouldn't have to see an ear infection in the ER, or you shouldn't have to have somebody coming with strep throat just to get diagnosed because they can't get into their primary care's office. These are things that can be taken care of at home with the correct management and correct assessment. So initially I was like, okay, cool, we're going to just, we're going to do telemedicine. And it was doing well. I was offering a very, man, looking at where I'm at now versus to where I was then, I was offering a super cheap deal. It was like $20, unlimited telemedicine. And when I say people took advantage of that, good Lord, people took advantage of that.
I was gonna say,
Dude,
yeah,
it was like
you
gang.
raise your prices just to protect your own time.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, I had to. I was forced to. It was so valuable at that time that I was forced to raise my prices. But also at the same time, the concept was so unheard of that you can just do video visits unlimited. I think I have one patient at that $20 price point, and I don't even bother her. Like she just there. She been there since day one, and she's like that lifer that just never phased out. You know what I mean? And I went to do a visit with her probably like 3 or 4 months ago, and she was like, "I'm never letting this go." And I was like,
yeah.
"You're gonna have to eventually." And so from there, during the pandemic, I kind of started expanding into like in-home testing, like doing house calls for COVID testing, flu testing, and like point of care strep A. And those appointments exploded. When I say that my office phone couldn't stop ringing because people wanted COVID testing in home, because one, at that time you couldn't get it in the stores, couldn't get it over the counter at all. The only way to get your hands on COVID testing was that either you knew a supplier or you knew a person that could get your hands on those COVID tests. So we were doing COVID tests in home. And we hooked up. I hooked up with LabCorp. I became like CLIA certified. Like I got a CLIA waiver to do point of care testing in home with patients. So we were doing like, I don't know, we were doing probably like 5 grand a week in testing alone from in home appointments at that time. So we were testing like crazy. So COVID, and then at the time it wasn't much to treat. We were doing like dexamethasone, cough med, things of that nature, just trying to make sure we support the lungs. We're just recommending all of the early day one treatments that we were like recommending. I mean, a lot of patients did well, but of course, as time went along, we started to adopt and get used to it. Paxlovid came out, we started doing it over the counter, so we had to start to change and expand the business model. So the business model went into 90% telemedicine, 10% in-home visits. So we started doing house calls, primary care, urgent care, and we were doing a whole bunch of different things with the house call visits. So we're doing like EKGs in home. We're doing like lab orders in home. So I got phlebotomists to come out and draw your blood. You don't even need to leave your office or home. We're doing IV infusions in home. We're doing iron infusions in home. So we're pre-medicating with the methylprednisolone and Benadryl, and we're dripping people in home with like ferric gluconate. We're doing executive scans for people, so whole body scans, just like Nuvo or Pre-Nuvo is doing. So we're scheduling patients. We're doing like brain CTs, the CT calcium score. We're doing the heart, the low dose lung CT, full spine, abdomen, and pelvis. Um, Man, it's so much that we're doing that is ridiculous at this point. So now I've moved from this $20 whatever model to this 20 grand a year model with patients who sometimes coming from out of town to work with me, or they could be something completely different. I would say the craziest visit that I've ever had. Let me see. I want to word this so I don't get in trouble. One of the craziest visits I ever had was at the Four Seasons. It was with a guy from this particular family security company reached out to me, and they said, "Hey, I have blah blah blah. We're in town. We're going to be here for a while. Can you come and test the whole family and just kind of do visits with them?" I came out. That was the quickest I ever made money. I did about 15 minutes of physical work and I made about $5,000. And after that point, I was like, I'm not turning back. I'm never going to that. I'm never going to that pain clinic and seeing that guy who was doing that catchy stuff at 3 a.m. and needed to come to the hospital. And I'm never going to focus all of my energy on doing internal medicine and working 84 hours in a week just to be off a week. Is just madness. So the plan behind Weekend White Coat went from, this small seed to this huge tree that we are now. And even still, it's not even one of those things that I need to take on hundreds of, thousands of clients to make money. All you need is a good set of clients that are willing to invest. I mean, you can do 6 figures off of 5 clients at 20 grand a year, or 5 people. So imagine doing 20, 30, 40, 50. So that model, and it's not an insurance based model. And I'll tell you why I switched my model, because when I first started out, I used to take insurance, and United Healthcare stiffed me so bad, dude. Like I billed a patient for like 100, I think it was like $180 for a visit, and they kicked back and gave me $20. I was like, excuse me, you got to be playing in my face, because I don't remember being a courtside basketball game. After that day, I was like, I'm not doing this no more. I mean, even though I'm still credentialed with these companies, right? Like it just doesn't make sense for my model. So um, it's a hell of a shift. I will tell you that.
Well, more like I guess beginnings, like what it, because you said you started from the ground up. So what did it look like to actually, go and get the licensing and everything you needed before you could see your first patient?
So ground up. So the first thing that I needed to do, of course, was I needed to be licensed as a practitioner, right? So MPI, DEA, we have CDS in Maryland, so you got to get your CDS. Then you got to do your business filing, so business license, of course, trademarking your business name, coming up with an actual product. Uh, the product sometimes is better than the brand in some ways. If you have a great product, people will flock to it, i.e., $20 a month for unlimited telemedicine. That was the product, the offer that broke the camel's back. I mean, you couldn't beat these people off of me with a stick if you tried. Um, then from there, you kind of just gotta build your clientele base, right? Well, hold on, I skipped a step. You need to have, if you're going to bill insurance, you need to commit to either that or a mixed model. So or full cash. So I had to end up getting a type 2 MPI. A type 2 MPI is just the MPI that you need to use for a business versus just an individual person. So I ended up getting a type 2 MPI for my practices billing for insurances at the time. And I mean, from there, Maryland's a free practice state. So all I had to do was make sure I had my establishments in correct order, and I can just get started. So I needed an EMR. I think at the time I was using Simple Practice. Simple Practice, man, it was like $30 a month, man. The overhead is cut in half drastically when you don't need a physical location. I was doing house calls. I was doing house calls. I was leaving the hospital and like going seeing patients in the evening. Or on weekends I wasn't working when I first took my fellowship. Hence weekend white coat, right? So I was only working on the weekends and seeing patients at that time. Um, and now it's just kind of like 24/7. But at the time, I was using Simple Practice for charting and telemedicine. So Simple Practice, super cheap. It was like $30, and it's like an add-on, like 50 or something like that. So you can bill insurances, and they did like they had like a claim software where you can just submit your claim, which was really good because I knew nothing about submitting claims. I had to research those codes myself. I really bootstrapped this, man. When I say I didn't know what was going on and I had to learn, I'm one of those guys that's like, if somebody say I can't do something, I'm like, hold my beer. I'll be right back, and I'll come back with the airplane. You know what I mean? So I started out with that. I started out with that EMR. I mean, most of the time, all you need is EMR and skills, and all of the other stuff that I said,
And
and all the
so
other
what?
stuff.
So I mean, this sounds extremely complex. Do you have a team that you work with now, or is it you still
Yes,
doing
I
everything?
do have a team. Yes, yes.
Okay.
I have Jason's my executive assistant. I have Lyra, she's my clinical assistant. I have another provider that works with me, PRN. And most of the time, it's just the simple touches. And concierge, man, they don't want to talk to the AI. They don't want to talk to. They want to call somebody and speak to them directly. So I split it up. I have a reception team, If anybody needs me outside of my hours, we're 24/7, but I gotta sleep sometime. So if someone needs me outside of my hours, the reception team can reach me all the time. But within my hours, I try to answer the phone myself. Um, if not, Jason is available. I let him run my schedule now. Man, in the beginning, it was just me running my schedule, which was crazy. And then once I started to get busy, I was like, all right, I can't do this no more. And Lyra, she's been with me since day one, like helping me with my clinical stuff. Well, not day one. She's been with me since day 366. So I hired her a year after I opened. So she's been with me since day 366. And um she does a lot of my like scheduling for patients. So if I need to schedule them for a specialist, she'll reach out and do the scheduling for the specialist. We source the specialists from the people that we know that I've worked with over the years. We do referrals, like we do all of the coordination from A to B. So if you say, hey, I want to see a dermatologist, we'll work with a dermatologist that we know. We'll get you scheduled. We set the appointment up for you after we find your preferences, and we just kind of make sure from there. And it's a open to close end game of scheduling coordination for these clients. So she does a lot of that. She does a lot of like the referral forms that offices need, FMLA stuff, a lot of that arbitrary. She does my EMR stuff. A lot of that arbitrary things that people need that I probably won't have time for now that I used to have a lot of time for then. I had to train her to do so. And then I have another provider that works with me. So I have on the other arm of what I do, I have a contract with the local city schools here. So we do physicals, sports physicals for the kids there. So I have a strong presence with like the sports, like the high school sports community around the city. I actually was there today doing some stuff, seeing kids and like signing off on physicals personally, which I love to do. Like I'm from Baltimore, so that's just kind of one of those things. And I went to a city school here, and I always like to poke fun. I went to City College. Shout out to the Black Knights, and that created a huge basis, man. And then after that, I mean, today alone, I went to go see one of my clients open a restaurant. So I showed up and kind of just like bought one of his sandwiches to show my support. And
Oh, that's
I was
cool.
like, oh
That's really
man,
cool.
what time is this podcast supposed to happen?
That's all right.
It worked
It
out.
worked out. Yeah, it's a little
We linked
confusion
up.
earlier, but no
Yeah, yeah.
worries. Yeah, it sounds like what you're doing, it can be nationwide. It doesn't sound like it has to be local to Baltimore. Do you have any clients that are outside of your local market? That, and then sorry, it's kind of a second separate question, but before I forget, to do this like high ticket concierge mess and whatever you want to call it, I would imagine that you have to have a pretty good network already. Is that something that you've been building? I guess forever. That's something that you're just constantly building, whether you know it or are doing it on purpose or not.
Yeah. Let's dive in. The answer to your first question. So yes, I do have clients that are actually outside of the Maryland market. So I'm not just licensed in Maryland itself. So I'm licensed in California. I'm licensed in Florida. I'm licensed in Minnesota. Random, but yes, licensed in Minnesota. I'm licensed in DC. I am licensed in some other place, but I try to get licensed wherever I have clients go, like where they travel to often or have to do business at often. I have a client in Georgia. I have a client that regularly goes to California. I have a client that has a vacation home in Florida. So I was like, these make sense. So I'm just going to go ahead and get licensed here so that I can continue to provide a continuity of care to you. So most of the time when you're in the program, if you go somewhere, we get licensed there just to make sure that we can continue providing care. And if I have to fly in to make sure something happens, then we'll do it. It's just a matter of the communication and a matter of what it is that they want from me. So yes, it can be a nationwide thing, but also at the same time, I try to keep it relatively small because the whole point of the concierge practice itself is to provide that care. Most people don't come because concierge, they come because they end up liking the provider. You know what I mean? So if you like the person that's taking care of you, of course you will want to invest in them. Just like, when Michael Jordan went to the Bulls, they put a lot of money into his success and talent, right? So goat in a white coat for a reason, greatest of all time. Hey, me and Jordan said to share the same birthday. So why wouldn't I want to be the person that they want to go to, the point person? So I try to stick with my patients as reasonably as I can, because some people can be unreasonable, but but that's why we do this. We do this because we can provide that unreasonable healthcare. And like I like to say to my clients, if you can afford it, we can do it. I can do anything. You just gotta have the pockets for it. Um, and then your second question was
Network.
network. So
Yeah.
okay, so I'll give you a funny anecdote. So I was I last year I did Goldman Sachs like 10,000 small business program, and they cycled through a whole bunch of speakers, like people that already done this. They've sold their businesses and they're like somewhere on a lake sipping mai tais, early in the morning instead of drinking coffee and like getting ready for a meeting. And it was a lady who came in and she owned a financial consulting practice. And when she discussed acquisitions of other business and what it is that they were looking for in assets and purchasing the business, they're not buying the business's name. They're looking to buy the assets that the business have. And one of the things that she talked about buying from these other companies is their client book, right? So the client book is where the money really was. So she paid $4 million for a client book so that she can have access to these other people's larger net worth that she was financially consulting on. And when we had a talk after she did her lecture, and she said, "You have a similar business because your client book is your asset. So you have to build that like an asset. So just like you invest in the stock market, or just like you invest in, you know, gold or Bitcoin, right? I have to invest in client acquisition, and I have to invest in my, my client network. So that way, when it comes time for me to sell my business, which it'll happen, everybody gets old. I'm pretty sure right now it's somebody wearing a kid's like play lab coat, beating on the table, eating a bowl of cereal, trying to be the next me, right? So somebody's going to come for my spot. I'm not going to be at the top of my game until I'm like 80 and walking with a stretcher. So I have to sell in the future to continue either one, making money and be able to retire comfortably, or I'll turn it into a heritage business and pass it on to my kids. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, the client book or the future client book is one of the assets in the concierge business. So yes, you build a large network over time. And what does that look like? That means I'm showing up to golf. I'm showing up to the country club. I'm playing tennis. I'm working out in the high end gyms. I'm putting myself in these areas where I can meet these clients, and I'm also investing in myself at the same time, because one, we all need a hobby to work out. Two, we all need a sport to keep us busy. And three, we all know most of the business deals get done on the golf course.
As they should.
And both of our wives still have not learned that, and it's been a solid 10 years.
Well, to be fair, we haven't really brought any big money clients home from the golf course, but we need to upgrade from the Muni courses to like the
they don't need to
higher
know
end.
that.
Yeah. That's not
I was
relevant.
about to say,
But
business is getting done.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah. It's the two of us. We're making deals with each other when we're out there.
Oh, dude, that's
But
all that matters, man.
yeah, that's how this podcast came around. It's like, yeah, we got a deal done. So actually, I think it was yesterday we were talking to somebody, or the day before, and they were talking about buying property management companies, which would essentially be a similar idea in the sense of you're buying a client list. And since we do property management, that's something that we've considered, because we've kind of dialed in our own properties pretty well, and we've thought about maybe extending into third party property management. I guess my question would be, like, what does that transition look like? And then ultimately, is it up to the client whether or not they want to stay with you? And what are you doing in it? Like let's say you were to go buy some other NP or doctor's client list. What are you doing in that situation to ensure that these people do in fact stay with you? And how are you valuing that client list as you're looking to purchase it?
I would say the best way I would look at it, the way I would value a client list is I would look at how much the previous provider was charging and what value they were actually getting out of the deal. So I wouldn't buy a book. If I'm charging 20 a year and the person's book that I'm trying to buy was only charging 5, it wouldn't be compatible, because you would have a lot of people who wouldn't want to come over. I mean, I could just bring in another provider and put them on their roll for that cost. That would be the other backup plan. Um, but I would value it per client. What's the RV, like, I'm not RVU, oh man, hospitalist brain. What's the value per client? Like, what's the return on investment that you're putting in these clients? So if every client is bringing you 25 grand a year and you're putting in about, 5 or 6 into acquisition, or if you're only putting in about 500 of work just because you have a good network, and each client is bringing you about 18 or 19 grand a year depending on what kind of billables you got, I would value on patients ROI to the practice first, and then second, I would make sure that it's a comparable practice, because if they're doing something that's under my value, it wouldn't be a good fit. If they're doing something that's about equal to my value or better, it will be a good fit. I say equal or better because at some point, you always need that next idea that will help you grow. So that other provider could have been doing something that I need to be doing, and at that point, I'll have to come in and say, hey, how are we going to implement this into our practice so that we can expand into the service area and keep these new prospective clients? I mean, yes, they do have an option of whether they want to stay with me or not. But most of the time, if somebody comes in and they're offering an equal or better service, you will want to stay with it, especially if you know that your person is retiring. So I get their endorsement to say, hey, this guy is good. You should work with him after I'm gone. I mean, some people stay, some people go. But what I find in most practices that are getting purchased, is that people stay because it's a pain in the ass to find a new provider. I mean, but not only that, but like most people couldn't even tell you who their primary care provider is. They just say, I don't know, some dude on the back of my card.
And what type of multiple do you buy those at? Like, say you're buying a book of business that has 10 people, and they're all paying similar 20 grand a year. That's two. Do you buy it for 200 grand, or do you buy it for less because not everybody's going to stick around?
I
What do you usually
mean,
buy it at?
I guess it depends on what you can get those people to commit to. Because if somebody's outgoing, if somebody selling me a dud, man, I'm gonna be ready to fight. But if they have these people in committed contracts, say 1 year, 2 years, if they're in a committed contract and they can't break it without some type of compensation clause, then I would say, all right, I would give it to you a little bit above face value. So if it's 10 clients at 20 grand a piece, I would say maybe like 250, 300 would be the worth if they're trying to get money out of the deal. So I mean, but that's also still perceived value. I mean, 10x is usually what somebody would tell a company for, but they purchase an asset. It depends on how desperate they are, actually. I mean, honestly, when you buy from somebody, it's easy to try to negotiate the price a little better because 90% of the time they're trying to get the Dodge. I don't know what happened. I don't care. As long as it's legit, let me know what the plan is so that if you're trying to get a Dodge, we can negotiate. Just like when you're buying a house, man, or a property. Most of the time, most of the properties that are for sale now, they're like boomers trying to get out of the game after they bought their house for like $2 and a toothpick. They're trying to sell for a million. So,
Colin's parents
Yeah.
have a similar situation out there in
Oh yeah,
California.
it's ridiculous.
$2 and
Yeah.
a toothpick for $1 million, man. That is life.
Well, it was my grandma. My grandma bought this house in the 70s for like 30 grand, 30, 35, something like that. And it's probably worth, I don't know, like 1.5 or 1.3 or something. Yeah. So Dave Ramsey, my parents just never paid for anything and then just waited and then inherited that thing, and it's boom. Dave Ramsey pays off. So
That explains Napa Valley.
Yeah.
no, we didn't get any of that.
All I'm saying is, man,
We're
are you having lunch at French Laundry or not? Like, what's going on?
No, man. You know what? So we have some friends that are very like they live in Vegas. They're a doctor and a dentist, and they're very into like food and all that stuff. And when they were coming out, they were talking about going to French Laundry, and my wife and I. So my wife is Josh's sister, Jen, and we were looking at, we are like, man, we're just not that into food. Like I like food, but but like I could go. There's a spot here like in town, Via Corona. Shout out to Via Corona, and the burritos are like $15. But I'm like, I'll eat a $15 burrito and probably be a lot more satisfied that way.
Yeah,
It's just not my thing.
I get it.
I would take that money and play Pebble Beach. That's what I would do with the money rather than like the food. But it's just not my thing. So.
Fine dining is a scam. I could tell you that with confidence. I always say I've done enough fine dining and know it's a scam.
Yeah.
It is. It's
I mean, it's good. It's a good experience.
it is. It's this place.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to blow it too much out of proportion. So it's a luxury. It's like a luxury hotel here, and you have this restaurant attached to it. And one of my colleagues that I was working with, he took his wife there, and he was like, "Hey, this place is amazing. I had the prime rib, blah blah blah." And I was like, "All right, cool. I'm gonna try it." So we go out to dinner. Um, and I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful place, and they're bringing all these courses. Like it's like a 5 course wine pairing thing that they're doing this night. And the soup was amazing. The drinks were great. And then when the entree started to come out, I remember looking down, and I was like, I had a steak the size of an AirPod. You know what I mean? I'm like, what is this?
That's what I'm saying.
The waitress looks at me and says, "I know, honey. If I was cooking, I'd have gave you more." And I was just like, "What?" We ended up paying like $500 for this. I'm like, "What is?" I was like, "Man, I'm not coming back. Fine dining is a scam." You're right. The $15 burrito probably would have rocked.
You stop at Taco Bell on the way home, and you're just like, all right, well
We
now I'm
went to
full.
McDonald's.
Like, see. So Josh and his wife came out to visit us because actually I'm from LA, so that's where my parents live. And we went down to San Diego and we went and did like we stayed at like some resort and did their like what was it like a 5 course dinner, and we had a couple cocktails before dinner, so they're bringing stuff out and they're all serious. They're like, this is the amuse bouge, and we're just like cracking up. We're like,
we're
is
laughing
not
at them, directly at them. Like, we
like,
know we don't belong here, but we're
yeah.
here.
And they're like, because the people, you know, like the lady who's telling you, like, I'm sorry, like I would give you more, like they know they're serving this stuff all day, they know what it is, so
Right. They
they're
know.
like trying not to laugh with us, trying to look serious, but we're just like, man, we do not belong here.
Right. But also, dude, at the same time, that's kind of one of those soft skills that you got to have working in concierge, right? Like you got to be able to tolerate the like yeah, you know that wine tastes like a foot because it's been aged for 30 years, but you know, you want to talk about the notes that's in it? No, it's a fruity note.
Yeah.
You know, I taste currant. Like what?
Yeah, you got to surprise them with some stuff.
Oh man,
yeah,
it's a soft skill.
Well, I think we're running out of time here, so we're gonna jump into our final 5.
Okay, sure, yeah.
So 5 questions. So first one is, if you need to go educate yourself in something, and usually this question is more based on finance, where would you go to educate yourself?
Where would I go to educate myself? I would go to the local library. The library has way more resources than people think. So I'm an ebook aficionado, right? I am in a love relationship with Audible. Every book that I got from the past 3 or 4 years, especially those older books, they're on Audible. But the library had the Enoch Pratt Library. They got Libby. You can go on Libby and rent like audiobooks, and you can do it for the cost. Well, it doesn't cost anything to get a library card. It's free. So if you want to just kind of clock in and get a Libby and like get the finance books, you just gotta listen. That's all you gotta do. Get in the car, throw it on, and listen to the concepts. I don't care how boring it is. If you can survive watching a murder mystery show, or you can survive watching like one of those cooking shows, like Pioneer Woman or some stuff like that, you can survive a money book. So that would be my first go to, and it's cheap. It's cheap as.
That's really, I mean, like that's actually really good because like, you know, these books that we're always, you know, recommending and everything, if you buy them online, I mean, even if you're buying the ebook copy of it, it's really it adds up.
Hell yeah.
And I never thought about ebooks from the library. I didn't even know that was a thing from the library. That's
that was a first, and
brand new
we're what, like 75 episodes in or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, number 2. You blew my mind with the library. When you first said it, I kind of chuckled because I was like, oh yeah, the library, haha. But now I'm like, wait a second,
dude. The library they got this app called Mango. You can do different languages too. So like if you need to learn French, Spanish, you can use the program for free. They also got Udemy. You can take classes on Udemy through the library. Man, I learned. What did I learn how to do? I started doing data analytic stuff because I've been trying to take the data from my so I had an app made for my clients to use, but I've been trying to take the data from the app and just kind of make something out of it, like all of the blood pressures and the glucoses that get uploaded on the day to day. But I was able to take Udemy, a course through the library. which is slept on, man. You ever wonder what they doing with all that money that they taking from the public? They put a lot of money into the infrastructure. Long gone are these like antiquated cards that you go in and you gotta slip them in a little pocket when you like rent the book out. You know what I mean? Like those guys are
Yeah.
like up and running, man.
Yeah. But you can't write notes to the next person that checks the book out. That's what's sad.
I know, man. That used to be the fun part. You know what I mean? Turn to page 72. You'll see something fun. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, so okay, so other than get a library card, what advice would you give yourself as a new grad?
What advice would I give myself? Don't buy the dance schools. That shit hurt my feet.
That's another first.
Don't buy
I
the
never
dance
fell to
schools.
that.
Don't buy it.
I never went for the dance goes.
That shit's overpriced. You could probably go to the New Balance store, get some 954s. They're a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, or there's some really good new shoe companies. I got to plug Uni. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're great nursing shoes.
I'll check
I
them out.
actually, yeah. So Uni was a nurse I worked with, and we interviewed them on the podcast. It's two nurses that started this company, and I was wearing them yesterday because it's been raining up here a bunch, and they're like waterproof essentially. And I was just like,
Yeah.
oh wow. And then I worked out, and I'm like on my break, I was like, I feel like I'm getting the full Uni experience. So this is like not a paid plug or anything like that, but
Not yet.
they're actually
Just
like
kidding.
legit. They're actually legit shoes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like Wear Uni. So
Yeah.
yeah, check those out.
Okay.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, number 3, Josh, go for it.
All right. What are you excited about for the next 12 months?
So I am excited about a new partnership that I just did yesterday. So I'm going to be going into like this like local gym that's kind of in one of these like wealthy areas here. I'm going to be doing like IV hydration partnership with them. So we're going to be launching inside of this gym. I'm excited about that. I am excited to possibly bring in another provider so I don't have to like go crazy and work with these school contracts. I'm excited about that. I'm excited. I did this really cool thing with you ever heard of Appley? So it's this like broker between direct primary care and jobs that are looking for like providers to administrate benefits to clients. I'm looking to expand into one of their clients, potentially, sending their workers my way to expand into another like practice. So I had this idea that I wanted to kind of start a practice that would be more, insurance based or more like work wellness, health benefit kind of idea. I would run it in the background, but I wouldn't do the day to day. But I'm excited because those are kind of like the new wave that these companies are giving for benefits. I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what actual IPOs might actually get through this next year. It wasn't a lot of IPOs in the last 4 years. In fact, there was a lot of dissolving of monopolies that we have seen. So a lot of companies avoided going public for the last 4 years. So a lot more money into the market. I'm excited about that. Let's see, man, there's so much to be excited about. Just live another year of life, man. I'm excited about that. Shit's awesome.
Looks like 2025 is going to be kind of uneventful for you.
I'm
All
trying.
these
Listen, boring is good, dude. I don't know.
more
I don't know-
AirPod sized steaks.
Dude, boring is such a good thing. I don't know who came with the idea that you have to live this exciting life. Boring pays. Boring is steady. Boring keeps you alive.
Yeah, you got a lot. You got a lot coming up. Yeah, that's so. Number 4 would be, how do you define success?
Dude, I was just having this conversation with my mentor the other day because I don't feel successful, man. And here she is, she built this like huge company. She's doing like a couple hundred million in payroll. And she's like, "You're successful." And I'm like, "How?" She was like, "Well, you have a company that's still open and you can take care of your family, you can feed your kids, you own a house, and like how are you not successful?" And that kind of was a cathartic moment for me. But I think that success is when you're able to take care of your obligations. I can go put gas in my car without looking at the pump. I can just let it run. That to me, that's luxury. That's like, I remember being in college, man, and like looking for 4 quarters so I can hit the dollar menu. So before I go to my 8 a.m. psychology class. And now, I can go and grab my Amex Platinum and just put it in the machine and let the gas run until it fills up. You know what I mean? So to me, success is being able to meet your obligations head on, and not not be underwater, I guess.
I was gonna say, do you think like that, like social media, and I mean, obviously having a mentor that's like wildly successful is kind of maybe intimidating or skews your version or view of success. But do you think that that plays anything into why you wouldn't consider yourself successful?
No, but I would say,
Like comparison.
yeah, I would say it's more of a higher standard that I set for myself. Um,
Hmm.
Social media, man, is a very scary place, and I will say that because, like, I've met with social media influencers, and like I've seen the people say, "I'll give you exposure. I'll give you 100 grand worth of exposure for XYZ," and you'll start to see that a lot of those people, I would say, 30% of them are 30% do okay, 10% do great. The rest of them are kind of just floating in space and trying to maintain relevancy. Um, a lot of the growth that I've had in business didn't happen on social media. I would say my average client glimpses at social media. They don't live on social media. I can't imagine being out with a client and grabbing dinner and they just pull their phone out and start drinking wine and saying, "This is fancy wealth." You know what I mean? Like that's not how it works.
You don't
well,
you don't
money,
do the cheers boomerang.
right? Right. Years, like, no, that's not how it works. Like, yeah, listen, I love them for that. And, in the most platonic way possible, I love them and I love what they do and it's entertaining. But I don't think that I can look at them and be like, man, I'm not successful just because, they're wearing some shit that I wouldn't be interested in anyway. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't say that skews my perception of success. I would say I would consider myself successful when I can comfortably say like I made $10 million last year. You know what I mean? So if I could say I made 10 million, if I could say I made 3 million, that would be successful. Not we made upper six figures, guys, not like 150,000 upper six figures, like upper like close to million six figures, and be like, okay, we could do better. You know what I mean? Or if I become complacent in what others consider success, how do I hit the pinnacle that I really want to reach? Success is relative, right? I mean, the guy begging in front of the 7-Eleven could look at me and say, "Well, that guy's successful. He pulled up in a car," right? But if I'm in a Toyota and I see a Bentley pull up, I'm gonna be like, "Oh shit," But the guy in the Bentley could be seeing the person on a private jet. So everybody's um, barometric idea or like whatever that metric is for success is different. And I just felt like if I can't feed my family plus 10 others, I don't think I got to where I needed to be.
All right. Fifth question is, what is the biggest financial mistake that you've made? What can you learn from it, or what can we all learn from it?
Do you ever see those guys that do those like Amazon stores? Those that like done for you Amazon
Yes.
stores?
Yeah.
Dude,
Actually, one of my good friends tried that out for a little while. He might be still doing it. I don't
then
know.
you understand. I would say that was probably I think the problem with it is I didn't understand the business enough to run it myself while I was trying to run my practice. So I would say one of those like done for you stores, dude, that was probably one of the worst investments I made. Um and I say that because one, I never really get in bed with business that I don't understand, and at that moment, I got into bed with a business that I didn't understand. I mean, and it was with, it was with a client that I trusted, and it was some other people I knew. Like I'm still friends with the client, but it's like the people that he was working with, man. I wasn't 100% sure, but I didn't get their business model to the extent that I would have loved to. And what you can learn from that experience is that if you're going to do something, you need to know what you're doing. You need to learn the business. Learning the business of anything that you need to do is 100% key. Why would you invest in something that you cannot understand? Warren Buffett said he wouldn't invest in anything that he didn't understand. So why the would that'd be like me walking in the NASA and saying, "All right, guys, get the fuck out. I got this." You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I don't know how does it work. Where do I make the money? Is it shipping and handling? Is it the margins? 10%? What? That makes no sense to me. So I would say that's probably the biggest mistake that I made that people can learn from, is that you need to learn the business that you get into. Also, I just want to say this: don't quit your day job after you start your business day one. You will be sorely mistaken if you think the people in your address book is going to be in your customer book. That is not how it works. I would say that is also one of the other things. Like, don't fuck up your steady check trying to chase a dream on social media, because everybody's not doing as well as they say they do online. So, um,
I would say nobody's doing as well as they say they are online.
fuck
I don't
no.
think anybody is.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't know how
Some
PG
people
this
are.
is, but fuck no, they're not. You
Yeah.
can bleep me
That's
out. They're not.
we'll bleep a few of them. Yeah.
Fuck's sake, dude, they're not doing as
Yeah.
well. They're not. Most of those people that do
Nobody.
that, they can't cover what they're asking. They're just
They're either making less money than they're saying they're making, or they're working 10 times as hard as they make it look like they're working.
exactly. And when the time comes out and you're like, all right, put your W-2s up, who's really making the six figures? You know what I mean? So what's the financial statement? Most people can't tell you what a P&L is, right? So if you can't tell me what a P&L is, we not on the same level, you know? So stay in your lane and stay in mine. So, but also that goes back to the lesson. I must stay in my lane. Nobody else is in my lane, so why would I want to swerve into some they got plenty of competition? Dude, I would
Yeah.
never walk in the OR and be like, all right, give me the SIVO. You know what I mean? Take a break, dude. Give me the SIVO.
Get out of here.
You know what I mean? I would never walk in the
Yeah.
OR and be like, all right, I got this. Where's the turkey sandwiches? Just point me to the right direction. Where's the IVs? You know what I mean? Yeah, like I'm not gonna go into something that's not my wheelhouse. If I can't be the best at something that I'm doing, why would I do it? That's a waste of time, you know? And if I do feel like I can be the best at it, I'll pursue it. But you will lose more money chasing a fool's errand than you will by chasing something that's already planned. Well, what's the saying? A fool with a plan can make more money than a genius without one, right? You see what happened to Kanye? Kanye, he thought he had a plan, right? He went on TV, said the wrong, he lost everything. You know, it's like, all
Yeah,
right,
Dave Chappelle said.
you're the genius with a fool's mouth. You know what I mean? So
Dave Chappelle said, "Pull your chain back out."
that's what I'm saying. So and the next thing you know, Pete Davis is like taking
Yeah.
pictures with your kids.
So, where can people find you and reach out?
If you are looking for me, you can find me at Goat in a White Coat on Instagram, at Goat in a White Coat on Blue Sky. And Facebook is Weekend White Coat.
And your business was
Weekend White Coat Concierge.
based out of Baltimore.
Based out of
if you need
Baltimore.
some
I cover the
concierge
DMV area.
medicine. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But he's licensed. He'll get a license in whatever state. So if you're in North Dakota and you want some concierge medicine,
Call me.
he'll get licensed.
So yeah, I'll be out there with some cowboy boots on and a hat.
Yellowstone.
Yellowstone, baby.
Oh, I love that show.
I'll be out there on the ranch,
Well, hey.
man. Like, bring a couple of those buffalo traces out here. We got to talk.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us today. It's been fun. And yeah, we look forward to connecting in the future.